Hey, welcome back to another video. If you know me or you've followed me on social media for a couple of years at this point, then you're probably well familiar with the fact that I tend to be pretty critical of Boom's Power Rangers comics. And it's for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which being their absolute refusal to focus on anything that isn't Mighty Morphin for more than a brief period or like a one-shot or something, and their tendency to be a little too serious for what I think actually fits within Power Rangers. Not that Power Rangers cannot be serious, Time Force tried it, and I would say mostly succeeded, save for a few rough spots. But the Boom comics tend to go way too far in the serious direction and come off as way too try-hard and honestly goofy in the process, making me take it less seriously than I have even some of the goofier Power Rangers shows. Despite all that, I maintained hope that the series would eventually do something that would win me over, and finally get me to stop bitching for 5 seconds. And in the main series, that never really happened. However, when Power Rangers Prime got revealed earlier this year, they actually did a lot to entice me right off the bat. For one, it's set in an entirely new continuity, so none of the old nonsense that the Boom book did prior has any effect on it. It's moving away from Mighty Morphin, which was really the big selling point to me after having so many years of just more Mighty Morphin. So I ended up being, dare I say, excited for a Boom Power Rangers book. It was a very odd situation for me to be in personally after having shit on this series for so long. So now that it is here, what do I think of it? It's fine. Yeah, it's not exactly the shining light that I was hoping it would be, but to its credit, it is much better than a lot of the last few years of the Boom book has been. Not that that is a high bar to clear, but it is a bar that it clears, and I think that it deserves credit for it. But despite that, there are a lot of things that bug me, and we'll just get right into those because I think it's good to separate it into the things that I don't like and the things that I do, and end off on what I do like overall. So we're at least on kind of a positive note here. Although be aware there are going to be spoilers for this, at least near the very end of the issue, so if you don't want those, then maybe skip this one. So right off the bat, what I think the biggest problem with the issue is that not a whole lot really happens in it. Now granted, this is the first issue and we are in a whole new continuity, so they need to set up the universe. And that is a lot of what's going on here. It's a lot of backstory to this version of Angel Grove, because we are still in Angel Grove. We're not totally free of Mighty Morphin, and more on that later. A lot of how it got here, what this specific world is like, showing that there really aren't Power Rangers around anymore, but we do have the VR Troopers, which is a thing that I enjoy. And right off the bat, you can sort of tell where the series is going to be going with this. You're going to be getting a lot of Eltarian bad guys, which we got at the end of the original continuity, and that's another thing that bugs me. The Eltarians are not interesting villains. They were not interesting in the original continuity. They were basically just your kind of generic world-conquering aliens, and that kind of just seems to be the case here. You can tell immediately that they're going to be bad guys, that this world, though it seems nice and safe and protected, obviously has something bad going on behind the scenes. There's definitely going to be a lot of corruption and a lot of shitty people, and I can already tell that I'm just not going to be interested in it. Maybe they'll change my mind, but I would have preferred more interesting villains. Maybe something from another Power Rangers series, like Operation Overdrive or something. There's like 8 villain factions in that. You could have figured something out. And also, as a result of this being the first issue, obviously we have to introduce our whole new cast of characters. You've got this half-Aquitian dude named Mark, an Eltarian born on this Eltar-occupied Earth named June. I'm presuming also going to be main characters who are friends with June, Ryan and Valentina, and our main character, in theory, Lauren from Power Rangers Samurai. The big issue with these guys is I don't care about any of them. I feel like there isn't really enough in this first issue that gives me any reason to care about them. I can't really tell you much of anything about Mark or June, and even less so about Ryan and Valentina, other than I'm pretty sure they're a couple, but I don't really know anything about them. Like, if you were to ask me to describe these characters as people, I wouldn't be able to tell you anything about any of them. I could just give you, like, trivia bullet points, like that June is interested in the Power Rangers, but other than that, they're just people who exist. And maybe that'll change later down the line, because, again, this is the first issue, and they're just going to give us the basics of these people right off the bat, so it's not a huge deal, but I think it is at least sort of a knock against it that by the end of the first issue, I don't really care about any of these people. I kind of care about Lauren. I'm interested in what they're going to do with her, but really only because of prior knowledge and knowing that she is from Samurai. So just taking this character that hasn't done a whole lot and potentially expanding on her is interesting to me. But in terms of what she actually does in the issue, there's not really a lot. There's a fight scene with her at the beginning, and then she's out for most of the rest of the issue, and when she does finally wake up, it is pretty much just to give exposition on the previous incarnations of the Samurai Rangers and give a little more context to what led Eltar to colonize Earth in this continuity, and explain her own backstory of having her parents murdered by the Eltarians alongside all of the other Power Rangers, it seems. And that moment is another potential red flag I can see. It's not really a big deal in this issue because Power Rangers is no stranger to implying, or in some series straight up confirming, the deaths of characters or characters' families. However, as I said at the start of this video, the Boom comics have this tendency to go a little too far in this dark, take-me-seriously direction, and I can't help but immediately worry that this series is going to do the same thing if we're already going with the whole "my family was murdered when I was a child" thing. So it's less of a problem I have with this specific issue, and more a worry of what it could mean for the future of the book if we're doing this right away, if any of that makes any sense. And then the last thing I have to complain about comes right at the end of the issue, and it's the reveal of our presumably main bad guy. And while this issue does not directly confirm it, we have the preview pages for the second issue, and those do confirm that this is our new Rita Repulsa. Why? So like I said, one of my complaints with the Boom comics is their refusal to do anything that wasn't Mighty Morphin, and one of the things that sold me on Prime was that we were going to be moving away from it. But we're set in Angel Grove again, but it looks so different it might as well be a different place, and we have Rita Repulsa. Why? Why could we not have just had a new villain? She barely looks anything like Rita anyway, so I don't see why they couldn't have just made a brand new villain for this. In fact, as I was working on this video, I learned that she looks very similar to Rita's daughter from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return comic, which I never read. So if you were gonna do a Repulsa, why isn't this her? I don't know, maybe it'll be revealed later that this is her daughter and she's going by Rita, or it is Rita and they just thought the design was really cool and they wanted to use it. I don't know, and it's either way kind of frustrating, just because we can't fully leave behind Mighty Morphin. God forbid we have a Power Rangers thing that isn't connected to Mighty Morphin in any way in 2024. If I sound bitter, it's only because I am. So those are my complaints with the issue. Let's move on to the things that I actually do enjoy in a more broad sense, and unfortunately there are a lot fewer of these, just because there's a lot of shit to complain about, in my opinion. But in general, despite the fact that not a lot happens thanks to the amount of world building they need to do, I think they do a good job of building this world out. You get a basic idea of what this version of Earth is like, mostly under the control of Eltarians. It seems pretty clear that they're the ones in power here. They're the guys running things. They're the ones saying that it is protected and peaceful and perfectly okay. The VR troopers are their personal force. And that is another thing that I enjoy. Like I said, the VR troopers showing up. This was not a thing I was expecting, and while they're not exactly like how they looked in the show, I think the designs are still good. They're still very reminiscent of how they looked, and the design change is probably more out of a necessity, one, to make them fit more into this kind of realistic style that the series is going for, but also because I don't imagine they have the okay to just straight up use those Metal Heroes designs that VR Troopers had. But they look good, and I appreciate seeing them. And then a small thing that does sort of tie into the world building, I do like establishing the previous versions of the Samurai Rangers. That's one of the cool things about that team in particular, that they've always been this long line of Rangers that have existed, that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years at this point. So I like establishing that right off the bat, that is still the case. So again, a small thing, but a detail that I enjoy. And that is sort of about it for the things that I like. Yeah, like I said, it's a smaller number of things compared to the stuff that I want to complain about, but it wasn't terrible, and I am interested in seeing how it is going forward and how they can improve on the stuff that does bother me. Maybe they can sell me on this new Rita and convince me that this was the right choice instead of making a new villain or choosing a different Power Rangers villain entirely. But that is neither here nor there. At the end of the day, it is a decent issue that I would say I mostly enjoyed, even though I had more complaints than praises. Stuff gets weird, but it's alright. But that is about going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, then please consider giving it a like. It greatly helps me out. And subscribe if you want to stick around for any of the future stuff I talk about, whether it be more Power Rangers Prime, Power Rangers the show proper I've been wanting to talk about finally, or Toku in general, or inevitably more Sonic the Hedgehog, because I am going to be talking about Sonic more. Plus just whatever random things get my interest that I want to talk about here. So if any of that interests you, then stick around because we're going to have some fun, probably. All the usual links are down in the description. Blue Sky, which I actually use as a social platform at this point, and Twitter, which is just for when I upload videos now. The list of music that you've been hearing in the background is linked down there. All that kind of fun stuff down in the description to go check out if you feel so inclined. That's going to be it from me. I hope you all have a good day, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you, and I will see you guys next time.